Dells, 5-0-1 each. Joe Bernal playing Esper Stoneblade versus Thomas Herzog playing Maverick. Both players have been on camera prior to this point in the weekend. Joe Bernal was on camera yesterday playing Red White Burn. Thomas Herzog was on, I think, a round earlier playing against a Bant deck. He ended up drawing that matchup, but it was pulled out a very impressive victory game one, facing against a True Name Nemesis with a Jete on it. And it looks like he has to face against True Name Nemesis with Jete yet again, although this time he doesn't have the Sword of Fire and Ice to race.
Yeah, Jete is the bane of X1 creatures' existences, and it looks like Joe is putting it to good use here.
Yeah, so it looks like we're in game one here. Joe is at 4 life, though. And, yeah, it looks like Joe's at 4 life. Thomas is at 20. He's going to take 3 there and add 2, and Joe's going to add 2 more counters to the Jete, so he's got 4 counters on it, although there's a Scavenging Ooze that is currently a 4/4. And now we're going to see Engineer Explosives for 2.
Well, don't use that yet. That's not a good idea. Oh, he's counting. Okay.
I hope he's counting, because that Jete is going to go away.
Exactly. You have a Jete. You need to do some stuff.
Did he activate? Oh.
Maybe he might have. It's possible that he vocalized it, in which case, he just said, kill your things and then blow your things. So, yeah, we don't always hear exactly what's going on there, so likely he did that in the correct order.
So despite being at 4, he's able to stabilize right now. It looks like Thomas has no permanents in play, no cards in his hand other than land, rather. And here we're going to see a Gaddock Teeg. Gaddock Teeg, 2-turn clock if Joe decides to keep attacking with that True Name. Not sure what else he has in his hand.
Currently wins the race. It does turn off that Force of Will as well.
Yeah, but it looks like he did draw a Swords of Plowshare, so he was able to deal with the Gaddock Teeg and continue to attack with his True Name Nemesis here.
Yeah, the deck that Joe Bernal's playing, it's kind of the Joe Bernal special, for lack of a better word. It is Esper.
Basically, basically just Esper cards.
He leans really heavily on basic lands. He does have, actually, it looks like he's trimmed them. He, at one point, was playing main deck back to basics.
He's got 6 islands, 2 plains, and 1 swamp. That's a lot of basic lands for an Esper Blade deck. He's got Stoneforge Mystic, True Name Nemesis. He's not playing Deathrite Shaman like a lot of these builds play. He does play Lingering Souls. Lingering Souls can be a very effective card in certain matchups.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Joe's kind of the old school Esper. Yeah. None of this Deathrite splash for 7 different colors type stuff.
Also has 3 copies of Flusterstorm and 4 Force of Will in his main deck, so he's pretty well positioned against other combo decks. Esper Blade decks generally have a tough time against combo. His particular build, though, seems actually pretty good game one.
Yeah, 3 main deck Flusterstorm, 2 main deck Supreme Verdict, which is not something that you always see in these control decks. This list definitely has Joe's personal flair to it.
3 Engineered Explosives. Yeah, it's pretty. He's got a lot of interesting cards in here.
And this is a deck he plays week in and week out. He knows what he's doing. None of these numbers are by accident.
So Joe Bernal, on the strength of True Name Nemesis, is able to win the first game, defeating Thomas Herzog. Thomas Herzog was able to defeat a True Name Nemesis earlier today, but he wasn't able to take it this time. Now, looking at his sideboard here in game 2, what does he have to help him out?
Well, he has 1 choke. That's a big one. He gains the extra Gaddock Teeg, which it turns off Force, as we mentioned, but also Engineered Explosives and Supreme Verdict. So Gaddock Teeg is very big. The 1 choke, and he actually has 4 Thoughtseize tucked away in his board there. Not a huge black presence in his deck, but just enough. He has access to Deathrite Shaman as well as 1 Scrubland and 1 Bayou. So I would expect him to bring in the discard spells, the choke, and the Gaddock Teeg.
Yeah, Bernal, I mean, his main deck seems pretty good already for this particular matchup with 2 Supreme Verdicts and 3 Engineered Explosives. Maverick's not really accustomed to dealing with that type of mass removal. After sideboard, he's got a copy of Engineered Plague. He can kind of choose to bring in if he wants to name Human. Pretty good against Maverick. He also has 1 copy of Back to Basics. Back to Basics actually pretty good. There's, I think, only 2 copies of Forest. But it turns off a lot of the dual lands that Thomas kind of relies on. He's got 2 copies of Pithing Needle. That card potentially can turn off some equipment, can turn off Knight of Reliquary. Quasali Pride Mage could turn off
Mother of Runes is a big one.
Deathrite Shaman, Mother of Runes, all cards that are important in this particular matchup. 4 copies of Thoughtseize. Not really sure you need that against Maverick. 3 Swan Song, 2 Surgical Extraction. Those cards seem more like anti-combo cards. He's got a copy of Enlightened Tutor and Rest in Peace. And Lane Tour is kind of interesting in this deck because he does have some bullets to get. He has Rest in Peace Back to Basics after sideboard, but not sure. You really see him bringing in Lane Tutor, maybe just to get an Engineer Explosive if he needs it. Could also get a Umezawa Jete.
Sure.
I kind of like in Lane Tutor just because there are some really powerful artifacts or enchantments that you can get in this particular matchup.
Yeah, I think I like it too, particularly because, as you said, Umezawa's Jete is so powerful in this matchup.
Yeah, and you have a lot of cards. He has a lot of cards you can take. Like Flusterstorm is not very good in this matchup. You could see those cards probably coming out.
Yeah, Flusterstorm not great. It's not dead. Yeah, this is a 4 Green Sun Zenith deck. There are certainly spells that get cast into taxing counter spells.
I mean, let me ask you: do you like keeping in cards like Force of Will in this particular matchup?
I do not.
Okay.
No. Force of Will is kind of famously bad against this deck because the power level of Maverick is so flat. There are very few cards that are like must counters relative to the others.
Yeah.
It depends on the matchup. If you're like a combo deck with Force of Will, like Sneak and Show. Sneak and Show keeps the forces because you want to be able to stop something like Talia.
Yeah.
Because you'll be able to win the next turn if you do. Whereas Joe's deck wants to kind of establish control, and it doesn't want to 2-for-1 itself in the process.
Yeah, it doesn't really have a lot of ways to draw cards in this deck to kind of recoup that kind of card loss. It obviously has Jace the Mind Sculptor, but you can't always rely on Jace in this particular matchup.
No, just as a 2-of. And yeah, so it looks like Joe, you're right, we'll take out the 4 Force of Wills, the 3 Flusterstorms probably. That's 7 spaces, which is plenty.
Yeah, and he really doesn't have that many cards he wants to bring in. Engineered Plague, possibly Back to Basics, and Light and Tutor, that's 3. 2 Pithing Needles, maybe. And then maybe he just brings in the Thoughtseize, thinking that, well, if I'm going to take out 4 Force, well, maybe just Thoughtseize is a better card.
He's trying to be proactive,
it kind of
sure.
It allows him to be a little more proactive with his cards that he cares about. Obviously, very good against Stoneforge Mystic. So I could see Thoughtseize just getting swapped for Force of Will.
Yeah, there's an argument for that. He definitely wants that Engineered Plague. I could see bringing in Light and Tutor just to get Engineered Plague. But yeah, really besides that, the Needles are solid. They're not amazing, but you're always going to be happy to draw one, I think, in this matchup. And then just kind of fill out with Thoughtseizes. Yeah, that makes sense.
All right, so both players are shuffling up for game 2 here. Joe Bernal is up a game. It was a pretty long first game, around 20 minutes. So if this game takes pretty long too, Thomas has to be concerned about drawing again. He's already drawn once. So has Joe. So a draw doesn't necessarily knock him out of top 8, but they would have to win the final 2 rounds here. Clearly, if they win this round, they're in pretty good shape to make top 8. They could afford one more loss even and still make it in. So both players really hoping for the win here, not the draw.
Yeah, both players definitely at the point in their tournament where a draw is effectively the same thing as a loss.
And I feel like because this matchup could be particularly grindy, I could see it going 25 to 30 minutes
for
even.
Sure.
Unless it's a sort of one-sided affair. I think the one-sided affair kind of happens on Joe's side more often, simply because of True Name Nemesis.
Yeah, it does. Maverick is one of those decks that you feel like, well, it's like a green-white creature deck. It can't be that taxing mentally, but it is very decision-intensive, and almost all of its most powerful effects require you to shuffle your deck every turn, which ends up meaning that if you are not experienced with it, it is very easy to pick up draws with Maverick.
Yep. Tom Herzog, he actually has played Maverick a lot. He enjoys the deck. He was talking to Cedric Phillips, talking about how much he loves Magic. In particular, he loves playing this deck. So Maverick was a deck, same thing. Back in the day, it was very, very popular. It kind of fell off in popularity in recent times. And here we're going to see Tomic play, sack Verdant Catacombs to find the Savannah, and he's going to play a Gaddock Teague here.
Yeah, which, as we said, shuts off quite a bit of Joe's deck. In particular, it shuts off his sweepers. It shuts off both Supreme Verdict and Engineered Explosives.
Yeah, which is very good. Joe is basically forced to use a Swords to Plowshare on it if he wants to cast any of his sweepers, which Thomas has to be happy with. Yeah. Although it looks like Joe drew a Back to Basics. Thomas does have a basic land and forest in play, and he does have the Deathrite Shaman, so he could play around it. It's not necessarily a back-breaking spell, but...
So Joe did go for Back to Basics then.
Yeah, so Joe cast Brainstorm this turn. He's going to dig a little deeper. It looks like he drew an Engineered Plague along with 2 other cards. Can't quite make him out. Yeah, but Back to Basics, it's a card that could be pretty good against Thomas. Thomas might not expect it. He could get caught off guard. But again, he does have a Forest in play and a Deathrite Shaman. So he should be able to navigate pretty effectively under it.
Sure, yeah. I wouldn't have expected Joe to even bring it in there. Yeah, not only does Thomas have basics, he has mana creatures. And actually a lot of Maverick decks, Thomas's in particular doesn't have the access to this, but a lot of Maverick decks have a Scrib Ranger or a Courion
yes.
Ranger. So locking down your non-basics just to have them untapped again doesn't really. That feels counterintuitive to me. Like I said, I would not have brought him back to basics this matchup. Having said that, Joe certainly knows what he's doing with his deck more than I do.
Well, it looks like he might shuffle it away. I'm not sure if that was one of the cards he put on top of his library, but maybe he's with you. He's like, you know what? This card might not be that good right now.
Sure.
He does, and Brainstorm does help you kind of make up for any kind of sideboarding mistakes you might make, given the amount of shufflers you have.
Yeah, and it's even difficult sometimes to call them mistakes when you have access to an effect like Brainstorm.
Yeah.
Particularly the Miracles decks that have Brainstorm as well as top. You can board in a very situational card, and if you don't find yourself in the situation that calls for it, then just ignore it. Just tuck it away. You don't need it now.
So Thomas Herzog is attacking with Gaddock Teague. Let's see if it's going to hit. Joe Bernal, I'm not sure if he has a Plowshares or not, or if he wants to use it. Looks like he does have a Plowshare.
Yeah, I suspect. Yeah, when he searches up a basic Plains, that's the big red flag there.
So it looks like Tom did draw a Stoneforge Mystic for the turn, and he is going to lead with it. And Joe Bernal is going to allow that to resolve. Let's see if we're going to see a Batter Skull here, or nope, it's going to be a Sword and Fire and Ice in order to deal with potentially any True Name Nemesis that might come down.
So Joe, we see an Engineered Explosives in his hand. Given that you see the Sword of Fire and Ice, obviously you can't use Engineered Explosives to take out Stoneforge Mystic before it starts causing trouble, and the sword is pretty cheap anyway. So I think the default mode here would actually be to, assuming he can, search up a black source and then play it for 3 and leave it in play.
Just because you know you have to deal with that Fire and Ice. So, all right, I'm going to take a hit from it potentially, but at least I know I'll be able to deal with it.
But that's the only answer to it that we currently see. He may have a Needle that would certainly do it. I believe he plays 1 Vindicate, right?
Yeah.
He does not actually. No
Vindicates.
0 Vindicates.
So it looks like in response to sacking Polluted Delta, Thomas is going to activate Death Earth Shaman, removing Swords to Plowshare. This is basically playing around Snapcaster Mage to a degree. Although again, we know that Joe doesn't have it. I think Thomas is kind of putting Joe on having Snapcaster in his deck. Not sure if he saw game 1 or not. But either way, smart play, because he was going to make that play no matter what. And here it looks like he's going to make the play that you kind of suggested, where he's going to cast Engineering Explosives for 3.
He does have the Needle as well, so he doesn't actually. Oh, okay, he's gonna cast it for 1. I saw the Needle there. Cast it for 1 to get rid of that Deathrite Shaman. Because he has Needle, he has a much more efficient answer to Sword of Fire and Ice.
Well, unless Thomas activates Stoneforge Mystic this turn and has a 4th land to equip it right away.
True.
If that happens, then the Needle really the Needle won't allow the sword to equip to anything else.
Yeah.
But it won't really matter because it's already equipped to 1 creature, and that's pretty effective.
Thomas Herzog does have the 4th land, but it is a Dryad Arbor, which is summoning sick. So is not able to tap it for mana that turn. It's a very odd heads-up play. You know, if you can do it playing around Needle specifically, but if Needle's not, if you're not conscious of the card Pithing Needle, that seems like a play that you would only make if you just had no other action.
Yeah, and again, it doesn't look like he has any action beyond that. So I think if he did have the 4th land, he probably makes that play. Here, though, it looks pretty good for Joe. He's going to play. He might be able to play a Pithing Needle, and he drew a Stoneforge Mystic for the turn as well. So, but he's going to lead with Lingering Souls first. And he could still potentially cast a Pithing Needle this turn if he wants to.
Yeah, I think it's a very high priority for him to cast Pithing Needle this turn. If he doesn't cast it this turn, he is going to get hit by it.
Are those Michael Jackson tokens?
Those, yeah, he's been using these for years. They are Yo MTG Raps, or Yo MTV Raps tokens. Those in particular are Michael Jackson's, but he has he has several of his own.
All right, sorry, you're not gonna be able to use those. We're gonna need actual Lingering Souls tokens. And Thomas activates Stoneforge in response to Pithing Needle, and Pithing Needle will get a confirmation for you, but I believe it probably names Sword of Fire and Ice.
One would assume.
And Thomas does have answers. He has Quasali Pride Mage, which actually can deal with the Needle.
Which he does have. So
wow, so pretty good draw there, or unless he had it in his hand already. And now we're going to be able to see it equip here. Although Lingering Souls can block. Yep, and we are going to see that.
Yep, I mean it can buy plenty of time.
Yeah, so Joe next turn can actually cast Stoneforge. He can flashback Lingering Souls. So he's still in okay shape. He just needs to get a piece of equipment of his own.
Yeah, and Joe does not have access to a Manriki Gusari, which you do sometimes see in Stoneforge decks for just this situation.
Yeah, so this looks like it's going to be Umazao Jite. He can flashback Lingering Souls, get 2 more tokens. That'll allow him to get 1 chump blocker. And then next turn, he could actually get the Jite into play, equip it to another token, attack, get some tokens on it, and then he'll still have a token left back to block.
Yeah.
So he could actually buy himself several turns here because of Lingering Souls.
Yeah, he's in fine shape here.
So he's going to attack for 1, dropping Thomas to 20. And Thomas now, I think, only has 1 card left in his hand. He's going to have to find some answer here. He does have Zealous Persecution in his deck.
That would be huge here. Yeah, Joe's fortunate in that the Sword of Fire and Ice, while its trigger is very powerful, the actual protection from blue and red is not relevant in the slightest right now.
Yeah, he does have Sword of Light and Shadow in his deck as well, so that would be another huge rip. We saw him use that to great effect in his prior match on camera.
Yeah, and I'm curious if once you know the matchup, is Sword of Light and Shadow maybe the one you want to lead with?
Yeah, I mean, I think he actually, yeah, I agree. Maybe he was just afraid of True Name Nemesis.
Yeah, okay,
I mean,
sure.
I don't know if he saw Lingering Souls or not. You don't really see that in that many versions of this list. He definitely saw the True Name Nemesis, though, so maybe he was just afraid of True Name Nemesis.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. You're basically just having to guess which one Joe has.
Yeah. So looks like Thomas is going to attack, or he's going to get eaten. He's going to get chump blocked by a Spirit token. Deathrite comes down, and Deathrite will get equipped by Sword and Fire and Ice. And we have another play here. Wow, Kozali Pride Mage.
All right, not
so
bad.
that is a way for him to deal with Umazao Jite. Although, playing it now could expose himself to a removal spell.
I mean, it could, but he has to have it in play right now.
Yeah.
If he wants to stop the Jite from from him attacking with the Jite and getting that first trigger of 2 counters on it. He could use it offensively the next turn to keep it off of the blocker, but
yeah. So it looks like Joe's got a hand of Engineered Plague. He's got that Umazao Jite. Looks like he also has a Engineered Plague, Umazao Jite, land, and I think he might have a Jace the Mind Sculptor as well.
okay. Jace looks like the play he's going to have to lean on here. That Engineered Plague surprisingly bad on this board. Yeah, against the board of 1/2, 1/2, 1/2, and 2/2.
So he's going to lead with Brainstorm, and there's a True Name Nemesis along with 2 lands. So yeah, he could actually put 2 lands on top of his library, play a sack land, shuffle them away, and play a Jace here. And with the Jace, do you just Brainstorm, or do you Fate Seal, or do you try to bounce something?
The question is, how exposed do you feel? There's not a lot of offense, and of course you can't redirect the Deathrite Shaman Life Lost to Jace. So I think he is safe to Brainstorm.
Because you have to figure the Pride Mage probably isn't attacking.
Right.
Unless you equip it. And if you equip it, you just chump it with one of your tokens.
Right.
You know? If the Pride Mage attacks along with the equipped Deathrite Shaman, then it'll just die, and then he can play Jite next turn. You can just double block it. So I think Joe's probably safe, especially if he's shuffling away those lands right now. He wants to just get some more cards. Something like Supreme Verdict would be huge just because he has Jite and True Name in his hand. So plenty of really good cards for him to still draw here.
Yeah, and in particular, I don't think he minds chump blocking maybe a little excessively on this turn, because I think the card he is drawing to is Supreme Verdict anyway. Having said that, he may, it's possible that he gets just as much of a leeway into looking for a Supreme Verdict by Fate Sealing himself. So there's a slight hedge that he could have made there, but he's going to choose to Brainstorm, it looks like.
So looks pretty good there. He got a Swords to Plowshare, so next turn he could potentially Swords the Kozali Pride Mage, then play the Jite, equip a token, attack, and then he'll still have a chump blocker in Stoneforge Mystic if he wants.
Yeah, so I mean, I suppose Swords to Plowshares was almost as live a draw as Supreme Verdict anyway. Probably better, actually, because it lets you keep your board so you can start attacking with the Jite.
Yep. And Thomas still just drew one. He has 1 card in his hand, the one that he just drew this turn. Sword and Light and Shadow will still be huge here. Looks like he's just going to equip onto a Stoneforge Mystic, or no, he's going to put on the Kozali Pride Mage. And Exalted Trigger means it'll be a 5/5 right here, but it doesn't matter. It's just going to get chump blocked by a Lingering Souls token.
Just whittling away at those spirits, one combat step at a time.
But now he has to face, Joe just has too much power right here. He's got Jace in play, he's got True Name in hand, he's got Jite in hand. Lingering Souls has just been phenomenal, right?
Oh yeah, Lingering Souls has basically been 2 moments pieces.
Yeah. And I have to say, it's one of those cards that you really think, I don't know, every time I see it in action, it seems really good. And there's some matchups where it's great, like a deck like Rug Delver. Rug Delver has a hard time with Lingering Souls sometimes because, you know, it could just block Delver Secrets and suddenly it doesn't really matter. You don't really have that much pressure left on him.
Yeah. Lingering Souls was one of those cards when it was first printed. I think nearly everyone had to see it in action once before they really appreciated just how annoying forward tokens are.
It really is. So let's see. Joe puts 2 cards back off the Brainstorm Jace activation, and now we're going to see a Swords to Plowshare. That is going to take care of the Quasali Pride Mage.
And free reign now to attack with that Spirit, start getting in there.
Yeah, he might be afraid of... Yeah, I'm not really sure what he would be afraid of here. Tom has 1 card in his hand. I think you're probably okay to just play the Jeté and equip here.
Now, he does not have enough mana to re-equip after he attacks. So
Yeah.
that's an issue.
Oh, so he might be just... Yeah, so he might... Hey, I have to imagine he's probably going to equip here, because if he didn't want to equip it this turn, he could have just activated Stoneforge Mystic and put it into play at the end of the turn.
Yep.
So it looks like he's just getting a mana, and yeah, he's going to actually equip and swing over for 1 in the air.
Right. Now, this is a weird interaction here. Once he sits with 2 counters, he can respond to Thomas's equip of the Sword of Fire and Ice to kill whatever he's equipping. But then, of course, Thomas can just equip to something else or attack.
Yeah, but he will force Thomas to use 4 mana on that one turn. And that might be good enough, because then you just chump block with Stoneforge, and then you get to untap Jace again. You have True Name Nemesis in your hand. You attack again. You get 2 more counters, and then you re-equip the Jeté onto the True Name. So I think Joe might be okay with that. Plus, you get to kill a Deathrite Shaman.
Yeah, I certainly think he's okay with it. Joe's in a very good position here, but certainly the noose is tightening. But if Thomas is going to slip out of this board state, it needs to be this turn. And it would need to involve attacking with getting through with that Sword of Fire and Ice, I think.
So let's see here. Joe's deciding if he wants to bother
responding.
Yeah, I'm not sure if
to the
you want...
equip. And I think I'm leaning towards yes. If you kill it off here, the alternative is to just chump block with your Stoneforge Mystic. Just block his Stoneforge Mystic with yours.
But you're going to
keep your counters.
You're going to do that anyway. So it's basically, do you want those counters, or do you want, to just make him use his mana? I think you're going to basically chump block with Stoneforge. Like, that's happening no matter what. Why not just make him use more mana? You want to kill a creature. I think you want to kill a creature anyway.
Yeah, I guess you do. And I was thinking that holding off kind of allows you to play around a Swords to Plowshares from Thomas, but it actually doesn't.
Yeah.
Because you're still exposed to it. It's just kind of in a different order. And as you said, yeah, he is going to throw it under the bus there.
Wow. So Thomas with an empty hand here. He is just getting manhandled by the power of Jeté in this particular game here. Jeté and Lingering Souls, just too good.
Yeah, and still not completely out of it. His board is certainly not Jeté proof, but it's a little bit insulated. That Mother of Runes is a pretty urgent target. Joe would obviously like to kill it before Thomas gets to untap with it. And then the Dryad Arbor is equipped, so only going to be able to kill 1 creature with this next Jeté activation.
Is this going to be an engineered explosives we're going to Enlighten Tutor here for?
That would simplify the process quite a bit.
So, yeah, engineered explosives could deal with Deathrite Shaman and Mother of Ruins. You could actually play it, activate it. Oh, no, so it's going to be back to basics.
Oh, hey, okay. That works too.
So that locks down everything except for 2 forests, and you'll be able to kill the Deathrite Shaman this turn with Jeté, assuming that the Spirit token connects, which it should.
Oh.
And then Thomas will be basically left with 2 forests, and you can even bounce the Mother Runes with the Jace too.
Yeah.
Because he'll just have 2 forests untapped.
I suspect that's what he'll do. It's interesting. Joe he has several non-basics himself, but this definitely seems like a reasonable exchange for him. And yeah, as you said, looks like he's going to bounce that Mother of Runes. No? Okay. Well,
oh, wow. Interesting. Because that's actually the one spell that he could recast.
Sure.
But it looks like he's just going to... He's okay with that.
Well, I suppose it's possible he just wants to keep 1 counter on the Jeté in case of something like Noble Hierarch or something like that.
Let's see. Are we going to see True Name Nemesis come down? Or no? He's going to wait a turn.
Yeah, he doesn't want to. I mean, if he casts True Name Nemesis right now, he actually just loses those lands forever. And not urgent by any means.
So, yep, just 2 forests left to be able to untap. He's going to cast a Death Ray Shaman. It looks like Thomas drew a Knight of the Well card. That's probably not going to enter play right away. And, yep, Thomas in pretty good shape here.
Joe in pretty good shape.
Joe, rather.
Yeah, Tom is not in the best of shapes here.
So, yep, Spirit Token is going to come over. You're going to get 2 more counters. I suspect Death Ray Shaman probably dies this turn.
Yeah, I would think so. So that way he still gets to keep 1 counter on in case of shenanigans. And gets to put use his Jace the way the Savior intended to gain some extra cards.
And yeah, and now we can see a True Name Nemesis enter play. He's only going to lose 1 of his non-basics. And he can choose to equip here, or he can choose to Fate Seal.
Yeah,
Looks like he's gonna Fate Seal, rather.
I said gain some extra cards. Actually, he can has all the options. Has a Jace the Mind Sculptor, so the world is his oyster right now.
Horizon Canopy there.
Leaves him with Horizon Canopy. That actually is going to give him 1 window to cast a white spell. So, yeah, he is going to sneak this Knight of the Reliquary into play while he can. And this is a threat that is... we don't know for sure yet, but is probably out of Jite range, at least for now.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that Joe didn't use the 1 swamp that he has to cast a Thoughtseize. I believe he drew a Thoughtseize. Yeah, he could have Thoughtseized first, taken the Knight of Reliquary, and then left him the Horizon Canopy, and then known that, okay, I'm pretty good shape for the rest
To be
of the
fair, he
game
can still do that. I mean, he can just unsummon the Knight and then Thoughtseize it.
But he won't be able to Fate Seal now. That's the main problem.
True.
So, yeah, he's not going to be able to Fate Seal. But, again, he does... Thomas only has 2 forests, so I'm sure there's nothing that Joe really is that concerned with.
Yeah,
that costs double green.
Yeah, I don't think there is a problem that could emerge from the top of Thomas's deck that can be cast with 2 forests. So, yeah, Thomas can either draw a problem or the land to cast it, but not both in this draw step. Nice, okay.
Sylvan Library there.
Thomas's deck is like, I heard you. This is what I've got for you. Sylvan Library actually kind of spooky there, but not spooky enough.
All right, so Joe Bernal moves on to 6-0-1, defeating Thomas Herzog. Thomas Herzog was able to at least draw with True Name Nemesis earlier, but he wasn't able to defeat it 2 times. So Thomas Herzog falls now to 5-1-1, still in position to make top 8 if he wins the last 2 rounds.